So up to this point, I've shown you how you can find profitable niches for your KDP books and how you can actually bring these books to life. The next module here that we're going to be going into now is all about once you've created that book, actually how would you get that book found by your ideal customer? So in this module, we'll cover this video here, which is about keywords and the keyword algorithm. And then the vast majority of it will be all about Amazon KDP ads, because that is the main way you're going to get your book discovered. But before we go into that, this lesson is really important to kind of frame everything we're about to go into for the rest of this module. So this video, the keyword algorithm, I'm going to teach you how the algorithm works and how you can use it to your advantage. So the keyword algorithm. So far in this course, I've explained that organic keyword ranking used to work well, but it doesn't anymore. And the reason for this is because, as I've said, more and more people are doing KDP, and ranking organically is therefore becoming more and more difficult. But in order to master keywords and kind of overcome this, there are two things that you need to understand. Firstly, understand this idea of keyword indexing. Keyword indexing essentially is when your book is associated with a keyword. So it's kind of like, any kind of related keyword, it is tagged kind of to that book. You then have keyword ranking. So that is actually referring to when your book actually ranks for that keyword. There's a big difference between a book indexing for a certain keyword and a book ranking for a keyword. Indexing basically means it's somewhat relevant to that book, whereas ranking means you're actually ranking specifically when someone types in that keyword into Amazon. That's a really important difference to understand, and I'm going to cover both of these in more detail in this video. So here's an example of what I mean by keyword indexing. Here is just this airplane activity book, but I've just put into Helium 10 Cerebro kind of reverse ASIN lookup, and it's basically pulled back all of the keywords that this book is indexing for. So as you can see, airplane activity book for kids 4 to 8, keyword is indexing for 341 in total, travel kids activity book, travel activities, flight activities for kids. So all of these really relevant keywords it has indexed for, i.e. Amazon are basically tagging this book along to all of these kind of related keywords. But what's interesting here is this doesn't necessarily mean this book is ranking for all of these. If it was ranking first for all of these, this book would be making an absolute fortune because ranking first for all of these relevant keywords. A lot of people are going to end up buying your book, but this is indexing. This doesn't necessarily mean ranking. So that's the main difference between indexing and ranking. Indexing, kind of all these related keywords that kind of Amazon almost like tag to your book. Ranking is the actual process of physically ranking for each individual one. So if this book was ranking for travel kids activity book, that's very different just to indexing for it. So indexing therefore increases the potential reach of your KDP book. So if you think the more keywords you're indexing for, the kind of the broader net your kind of book has over the whole of Amazon. So although indexing isn't quite as strong as actually ranking for a certain keyword, it's still good to have, because the more keywords you can index for, the greater your reach, and hopefully at some point the more people will eventually see your book. And therefore how I treat this is therefore the role of your organic keywords to index for these relevant search terms. So if you go in to upload your KDP book, I'm sure you've seen this. You have to upload, some keywords into your 7 keyword boxes. How I treat these now is these are just for me to use to index for as many related keywords as I possibly can, with the goal of this. You see, airplane activity book for kids. Look at all these individual words. They all kind of relate to this book itself. And that is the goal of these here. We're not necessarily using these boxes to rank first for a keyword, because that's just not going to happen. That's just not how these keyword boxes operate. The main goal of these keyword boxes is essentially just to tell Amazon, what is your book about? In this case, they're going to have loads of airplane, travel, holiday kind of keywords in there. And Amazon will automatically know, okay, we know roughly what this book is about. Let's index for all of these keywords, because that's what they're telling us in these 7 keyword boxes. These are mainly for indexing. Just because you put a keyword in here does not mean you're going to rank well for them. In fact, it's very, very unlikely that you will. So therefore, you need to be using these to index your keywords. And we'll go on to how you actually rank for keywords later on. Now, this is great. The more keywords you index for, technically, the broader kind of your reach is on Amazon. Even if your book isn't showing up, on the first page, it's going to be showing up somewhere down the line, because it's indexed somewhere. Doesn't necessarily mean it's ranking really high. So in theory, the more you can index for, kind of the broader reach you have. So it's a good thing, but it's not what's going to drive sales, especially when your book is new. Now, this is great if you could index for loads of keywords, because the more keywords you can index for, technically speaking, the broader kind of your reach. Even if you're kind of ranking on page 3 or 4 for a certain keyword, at least you have indexed for it, and Amazon are aware that that's related to your book. But indexing for keywords is not what's going to drive sales, especially when your book is new and it hasn't got any kind of data or sales to back it up. And this is where ranking for keywords is what will drive the sales. And initially, a lot of this ranking comes from ads. So we've touched on indexing here. I've said this book isn't necessarily ranking first, second, or third in the search results for all of these. These are just kind of tags alongside this. And I've said that a few times, but I just want to repeat it to get it into your head, because it's really, really important. Ranking for these keywords is a totally different thing. And like I say, initially, that will come from ads. So again, let's take this airplane activity book, for example. When you first launch this book, of course, you'll probably index for airplane activity book, because you probably have that in your title. I'm sure you've got your keywords within there as well, but you probably won't rank for it. And the reason why you won't rank for it initially is you have to kind of run all of your decisions on KDP through this lens. Remember, Amazon will only rank products that make them money. Ultimately, Amazon just want to make themselves as much money, and therefore they're only going to be pushing books that are already selling well, because if they're already selling well, Amazon's like, okay, the more of this we can sell, the more money we make. And therefore, to take a keyword from just indexing to actually ranking, your book needs to be selling. So I know what you're thinking. But how can I sell a book when it's not ranking? And then how can I rank a book when it's not selling? What comes first? It's kind of like a chicken or egg situation. Do I rank my book first and then it sells? Or do I sell my book first and then it ranks? It's very difficult to understand how you actually get this ball moving. And the answer to this is the sales have to come first. Your book's not going to rank if it's not selling. Because remember, Amazon only push the products that are actually selling well. Because remember, Amazon only organically push products that are already selling well. So at some point, the sales have to come first. And therefore, the sales don't come from organic indexing. They come from paid advertising. So let's stick to this book here that we're talking about and take the keyword airplane coloring book. Let's just say this is the main keyword that you want to be ranking for. So you upload your book for the first time ever. It's gone live for a day or so. You're not going to be ranking very well for this because it's just been launched. You have absolutely no sales. So you have no ranking and therefore you have no sales. And because you have no sales, you have no ranking, which means you have no sales. This positive feedback loop just keeps going and going and going because, how are you going to improve your ranking if you don't have any sales? And that is where you start to add in ads. So let's just say you added a keyword ad where you're specifically targeting airplane coloring book. And because you're paying and you're using ads, your book now might show up first for the search term as a sponsored product because that's the whole point of ads. Ads take your book and put you right at the top or wherever you want it to be after a certain search term. So all of a sudden now you've got no sales, which means you have no ranking, but you've just started to add in Amazon ads. And now people are actually starting to see your book because you've placed it in front of the right people. Everyone who searches this is going to be interested in your airplane activity book. And therefore, after you start using ads, you then start to get some sales because people are seeing it, they're buying it, they're enjoying it. And then as you start to get some sales, you then start to get some more organic ranking. So slowly this is starting to pick up again. You then continue using your ads, you're spending more and more people are seeing it. You then start to get more sales, and the more sales you get, the more organic ranking you start to get. So as you can see, we're starting to build this positive feedback loop, and it's all driven initially by those ads. So we're at the point now where our book's actually starting to rank a lot more. We're still using ads, and we're getting more sales. And the more sales we get, the more ranking we get, which means we get more sales, which means we get better ranking, which means we get even more sales. And crucially here, these sales are no longer just coming from ads. Yes, the initial ones will come from ads because that's how you're going to get exposure. But as you get more sales after those and you start ranking organically more of these sales are going to come from organic keywords, KW meaning keywords here. So all of a sudden it gets to the point in your feedback loop where the more sales you get is great, but actually it's even better because not all of these sales are coming from ads. A lot of them are now starting to come from organic keywords because you're organically ranking now for this airplane coloring book. Because again, Amazon is seeing, oh wow, people are actually buying this book when the ads show up for airplane coloring book. Let's see if we can push it ourselves about the ads and see how it happens. And that's how you build your organic ranking. So this is kind of a rough idea. Don't necessarily pay too much attention to the specific numbers, but how your split between organic and paid might start to look. So if you go back to this kind of feedback cycle here in mind, when you first start out, you're going to have very, very little ranking because, no one's bought your book yet, or very few people have bought your book and you're not ranking very well for many keywords. So the vast majority of your sales are going to come from your paid ads. But over time, as you get more sales, Amazon will start realizing, again, more ranking, that they're starting to push your book a little bit more. And then over time, the amount of sales you get from organic keywords here, because again, Amazon is starting to push your book organically for this keyword because every time it's shown up in an ad and it converts well for a sale, Amazon think, oh great, this keyword is actually leading to more sales for this book. Let's start pushing it ourselves. And that's where you start to get an increase between paid and organic. Now, however you split your organic versus your paid is completely up to you. Some people like to start quite aggressively with ads, and then once the organic sales pick up, just completely cut off that ads altogether. I think that's a bad idea because ultimately if your ads are running profitably, you may as well keep them the same. But the idea is when you're kind of trying to rank for these keywords, initially a lot of the sales are going to come from ads, but over time, the more sales your book gets, the more Amazon start ranking it organically, the more organic sales you get, and then you're in that positive feedback loop of compounding and your book will start ranking organically. This is how you get started and start actually ranking and getting your book in front of the right customers. So therefore, paid ads give your books the initial push before it starts ranking organically. Going back to this chicken or egg situation, paid ads are the things that are going to initially drive those sales. And this is why people with a scarcity mindset who are scared to invest in their KDP business, especially their KDP ads, will fail because they upload their book and then they complain they're not getting any sales. You have to be prepared to invest in your book initially at the start before you start getting these organic rankings. People just expect, to upload a book and then it just starts selling. This isn't 2019, 2018 anymore. That doesn't work. You need to be prepared to invest because ultimately it's a means to an end. You're not just paying for sales. You're paying for the initial traffic that really starts to get this ball rolling and starts that positive compounding for you. This is why people with a scarcity mindset fail on Amazon KDP and why this course is not made for any of those people. It's only made for people like yourself who are prepared to invest in their business because ultimately that is the quickest and most reliable way to grow. So that, to be honest, is everything you actually need to know about keyword ads. Like I say, it's changed a lot in the last few years and there's no point in me going on and lying to you saying, oh, it's all about organic keywords because it's just not anymore. This is the whole system that it comes down to ranking well organically for your keywords. I'm not saying organic keywords aren't important. They are extremely important, but it's how you get to the point where you're ranking organically, which is where a lot of people have the issue. And this is where the role of ads come in. So that's everything you really need to know about keywords. Now we're going to move on to ads, but before we do that, there are a few things that we need to cover. You see, finding good organic keywords, although I've said it's not the most crucial thing in the world for KDP these days, it is still important because we do want to index for as many keywords as we possibly can. Again, going all the way back to the start, if we can, the more we index for, the broader our reach is. Even if we're not necessarily ranking for them, having more keywords or relevant keywords that we're indexing for can never be a bad thing. So the organic keywords that you find do still play some kind of role in KDP. And there are two main places where we want to place our organic keywords. Firstly, in the book title, and then secondly, in our keyword boxes. And I've highlighted again here our book title because it's actually very important you use good organic keywords in your book title, because in terms of SEO pull organically, this is where it is the strongest. If you've got your main keyword in your book title, Amazon essentially look at your book and think, okay, what's this book title? How can we try and figure out who might want this book and what this book is? The first thing they look for is in the book title. So again, although the vast majority of traction is delivered by paid ads rather than organic ranking, it is still fairly important to have some organic keywords in your book title. I'm going to show you exactly why that is now. So like I say, your KDP book title, again, this is less important than it used to be, but it is still important to have a properly formatted book title. And here's some things your book title should do. It should contain your best keywords, i.e. the ones with high demand and relatively low competition. And I would say no more than 3 keywords max, because you don't want to just be keyword stuff in your title. It looks really unprofessional. People know what you're doing and actually put them off. So I would say definitely no more than 3 kind of main keywords in your title. And it also crucially needs to sell the benefit of the book. This is nothing to do with actually ranking. This is kind of to do with kind of converting and actually speaking to your customer. And I'll cover this in just a second on the next slide, but just reiterating here, organic SEO pull is the strongest in the title and subtitle. And therefore, if you can, you need to include keywords with high search volume and low-ish competition. And here's exactly what I mean by how to structure a book title with these 2 things in mind. Again, this is definitely nowhere near as important as it used to be, but you still want to have a properly formatted book title. So you can see here, this is a Tricky Riddles for Smart Kids. And the title is Tricky Riddles for Smart Kids, 320 fun riddles, brain teasers, and trick questions for everyday family fun that boost brain power for ages 7 to 9 and 8 to 12. Now I'm going to show you why this is a good title. Starting off firstly with this idea of containing your best keywords. Firstly, as you can see here, they've got the keyword riddles book for smart kids. This is going to be a keyword that a lot of people are searching into Amazon. And therefore, if you can put this in your title, that's going to be great, because they put this riddles book for smart kids, but they haven't just led with just this. They've kind of tied it into an overall kind of sentence, the tricky, and then riddles book for smart kids. So as you can see, they've been quite strategic and quite clever with how they put this keyword into their title. So you would read this, the tricky riddles book for smart kids, and you wouldn't think, okay, they're putting a keyword in there because that's just the name of the book. So they've been quite strategic with that. They've also found the keywords fun riddles and brain teasers are also really, really high demand keywords. Lots of people are typing in fun riddles into Amazon, and they're also regularly typing in brain teasers. So as you can see here, this person has got 3 really good keywords naturally integrated into their title: riddles book for smart kids, fun riddles, and brain teasers. Now going back here, the second thing your title needs to do, it should sell the benefit of the book. Don't talk about how great your book is, sell the benefit. And I'll go into this in a bit more detail when we get to the description video of this course. In terms of selling the benefit, as you look here, family fun that boosts brain power. People buy a book for a certain reason. When someone's buying something, they're buying it because they want a certain outcome. So any kind of mum or dad that sees this for their kid and think, oh, this can boost my kid's brain power, you are selling the benefit of the book. That's a really important thing, because people think, okay, great, I knew that they would be interested in tricky riddles for smart kids, but the fact that it also boosts my kid's brain power is a benefit too. You're selling the benefit of buying the book. And the same here, everyday family fun. If they want something that's going to bring the family together, everyday family fun is another benefit. So a really good KDP book title should focus on the 2 things. Get your keywords in there and also then focus on how it actually benefits the buyer. So that is how you properly structure your book title. Again, it's not as important as it used to be, but it is still definitely important to know. And now finally, indexing for keywords. Now earlier on in this video, of course, I stressed the importance of using the 7 keyword boxes you have when you upload a book to try and index for as many keywords as possible and increase your reach as much as possible. So you should ideally fill these with as many relevant words or phrases as you possibly can. Because if I just go back to the slide here where I have the image here, how the keyword boxes basically work was if you have the word kids here and you have the word activity here and then the word book in here, along with other words in each box, Amazon will be able to link kids, activity, and book between these 3 boxes. Amazon basically look at all these boxes and try and come up with as many combinations as they possibly can. That's how these back-end 7 keyword boxes work. Now, some people say, should I fill it with specific phrases or individual words? The honest answer is it doesn't really matter. So many people have different strategies. The only thing you want to be focusing on is how many specific phrases and relevant keywords can we be ranking for by using these boxes. So one thing just to remember and bear in mind, Amazon can cross-reference between boxes. So kid, activity, and book would mean our book index is for kid activity book. That's how these boxes work. So therefore, like I say, you should ideally fill these with as many relevant words or phrases as you possibly can. And you can do that with just using your own brain and trying to think of many relevant phrases as you can. But the best way to do it is to use Helium 10, which allows all of this to be completely data-driven and do it in a matter of seconds. I'm going to jump over to Helium 10 now and show you exactly how to do this. So once you're in Helium 10, all you want to do is go up to Tools and then go to Cerebro, which is reverse product lookup. And what this is going to do is basically we're going to put in the ASINs of as many relevant books as we possibly can and find all of their keywords. So let's just say we're uploading, again, a unicorn coloring book for kids. We want to find as many unicorn coloring books as we possibly can, ones that are actually relevant to the book we're making. So let's go for that one here. Let's also find another one, color by numbers unicorn. That's also relevant. I'll go ahead and put this in here. And let's find another one, My Beautiful Unicorn Coloring Book. Let's take this ASIN and drop this in there. And essentially put as many of these as you can. I'm just going to show you 3 in this example. And then go ahead and press Get Keywords. And remember, for these keyword boxes, we just want to have as many relevant words that we possibly can to put into those boxes. And what this basically does, it looks at all 3 of these products and brings back all of the keywords these books are indexing for. They're not necessarily ranking first or second for all of these. These are just all the keywords that they're indexing for. So if we want to get as many of these indexing on our book as we possibly can. And this is where Helium 10 comes into its own as an extremely good piece of software. As you can see, 649 filtered keywords, and it would be ideal if we could take every single individual word from these and see the most commonly occurring ones, because the most commonly occurring ones are going to be the ones that have most traffic and we're going to index the most for. And Helium 10 literally allows you to do that. So of the 649 filtered keywords, if you just go to export data and then export to Frankenstein, which is kind of their own tool within Helium 10, it will basically take all of these keywords and drop them into the box. So these are every single keyword that those 3 products are currently indexing for. This is only for 3 books. Imagine if you had 10 books, just how much data you had. Then what you want to do here is go down and just press 1 word/phrase per line and then include word frequency count. And what this tool has done, Frankenstein, is looked at every single one of these keywords and broken it down by individual words and ranked it by the most commonly occurring words. So if we now just press frequency here, these are the most commonly occurring individual words that all 3 of those extremely relevant competitors are indexing for. So all you want to do now is go ahead and fill those 7 keyword boxes with as many of these as long as they're still relevant in your keyword boxes. As you can see, something like Disney here, I would probably avoid that because that's copyright. Again, you're very unlikely to be done for kind of copyright or trademark infringement in your keywords, but I would just be very careful. Always err with a side of caution. So something like this, I wouldn't include. And also anything that's not relevant, don't include either. So something like old is relevant because it means year old. You have year in one keyword box and maybe old another, and then 7 in a different keyword box. It would say 7-year-old. So book for 7-year-old, you would rank for that. So this data alone is just so valuable and so important. So make sure you're going ahead and highlighting these. Drop them into your 7 keyword boxes and just make sure you're only including ones that are actually relevant to your book. And this is basically in a matter of clicks and a matter of minutes, showing you the most commonly occurring individual words that your competitors are already exactly indexing for. But this is really valuable. So what I mean by this, I'm just going to show you an example using tangent templates. You probably go ahead and just take these ones, go into your keyword listing and drop these in, and then make sure you're filling it up. So unicorn and children, do we have enough space for this? We don't. So we get up to unicorn and then we'd go to children, kids, stocking is going to be there for kind of like stocking filler, so that is relevant. Go ahead and put this in, and that's literally what you would do to fill up your 7 keyword boxes. Now if you think about all the possible combinations, if you fill up all of these with all of these words, just how many possible combinations of keywords we can come up for, and therefore just how many keywords we're going to index for. That's why this is so powerful, and why although Helium 10 is probably one of the more expensive softwares, it is literally priceless when it comes to actually building a successful KDP business. So summarizing everything we've spoken about in this lesson about the keyword algorithm, when it comes to keywords, it's important to know the difference between ranking and indexing. In order to rank for keywords, using Amazon ads is the best approach, and over time, you'll start ranking for these phrases organically. Remember, Amazon just push the books that are making them money. But in order to get to that point, your book needs to be making sales, and in order to make sales, you need to start with using Amazon ads. And then once you're ranking for a lot of these phrases organically and you're indexing for a lot of keywords, sales will start to roll in. So that is the keyword algorithm on Amazon KDP, how to fully understand it and how to make the most of it.